Tensions that began in the waters of the Gulf have now rippled inland, and last week, a single bureaucratic order in Islamabad quietly changed the map of regional trade and the politics that ride on it. On April 25, Pakistan's Commerce Ministry put into force a new statutory order, formally opening designated overland corridors that allow Iran and third countries to move cargo through Pakistani ports and across Balochistan to Iran's borders. At first glance, the order looks like a practical trade measure. On closer inspection, it is both a logistical workaround and a geopolitical signal. The framework designates a network of routes across southern Pakistan, linking major gateways, ports like Gwadar, Karachi, and Port Qasim, with inland corridors that run through towns and crossings such as Turbet, Hoshab, Nakundi, Quetta, and the Taftan border. The effect is to knit together a land bridge that can carry containerized trade from ships off the Arabian Sea directly to Iran's frontier post. Hence, there is a single start condition written into the rules. Consignments destined for Iran or transiting Pakistan en route to Iran from third countries must be backed by an encashable bank guarantee equal to Pakistan's import duties. It is a customs safeguard, a bureaucratic lever meant to keep transit flows regular and to protect state revenue, but it is also a mechanism designed to reassure outside capitals that goods moving overland are tracked and accountable. The timing of the order matters as much as the text. Diplomacy has been racing to catch up with disruptive changes at sea. Since the February strikes and a subsequent escalation, shipping patterns in the region have been recalibrated, insurance regimes tightened, carriers rerouted, and a partial blockade in parts of the Gulf left thousands of containers in limbo. Industry sources estimate that more than 3,000 containers bound for Iran have been held at Pakistani ports, unable to reach Iranian seaports because forayers and insurers deem the maritime route too risky. For traders and logistics companies, the corridors are a rapid alternative. Instead of the longer, more vulnerable voyage around contested waters, consignments can be discharged at Karachi or Gwadar, re-cleared under the new transit rules, and trucked across Balochistan to border crossings like Taftan. Shipping companies facing rerouted schedules can shorten transit times. Exporters can diversify routes and reduce reliance on a single sea lane. For Pakistan, which already sits on key geographies between South and Central Asia, the order is a chance to push its ports and infrastructure into the middle of a wider regional trade map. Local commerce leaders have been explicit about the economic logic. Tariq Rangwala, a Karachi-based industry interlocutor, put it plainly: the southern corridors are already being used as a practical alternative to northern routes, and there is hope they will remain a durable feature as geopolitical tendency. FIAN's reshaped supply chains. The new legal framework simply gives traders permanence and a customs system that matches what many were already trying to do by ad hoc means. But beneath the economic promise lies a harder political calculus. Any expansion of trade flow to Iran will be watched closely in Washington, where economic isolation has been a deliberate element of pressure strategy. Pakistan's permission to allow transit, even under stringent bank guarantees, shifts leverage in small but consequential ways. The corridors do not erase politics. Every truck that moves toward Taftan will carry a secondary freight, a message about which gateways remain open in a region where access has become an instrument of influence. That message was amplified by a flurry of high-level diplomacy on Pakistani soil this month. A senior Iranian delegation landed in Islamabad for consultative talks, and its lead negotiator described the visit as productive, but impatiently skeptical about whether Washington would match Pakistan's urgency. Asked whether the US approach signaled seriousness, he summed it up simply: "We have yet to see." The shuttle diplomacy has been rapid. Pakistan has hosted envoys in the morning and seen them depart for Muscat or Moscow by night. It's repeatedly positioned itself as a neutral platform where both sides can test ideas without immediate risk of escalation. That role has elevated Pakistan's civilian and military leadership into a dangerous and delicate center stage of regional mediation. Washington's choreography, meanwhile, has been subject to abrupt changes. Earlier in the month, the United States dispatched a high-level delegation to Islamabad, part of an effort involving trusted intermediaries who have been central to broader attempts at de-escalation. Plans for that visit were suddenly altered after President Donald Trump publicly called off the trip, framing the decision in blunt, dismissive language. He said, "We have all the car. They have none." A short time later, he added, "They can call us anytime they want." Those lines crystallize an ambiguity that has come to define the moment, a posture meant to keep pressure while apparently leaving the door open to negotiation. The president insisted that cancelling the envoy travel did not signal a turn toward further military escalation, but he offered no clear roadmap beyond reliance on the leverage he argues Washington holds. For opponents and advocates alike, the public rhetoric was as consequential as the private diplomacy. Tone and timing are often read as tests of seriousness. The policy debate in Washington has also spilled into legal analysis. A State Department legal memorandum assessing the administration's rationale for the strikes has become a focal point of contention. The memo's language is direct. Its formulation asserts a legal basis that frames US actions as undertaken at the request of and in the collective self-defense of its Israeli all. The conflict, as well as in the exercise of the United States' own inherent right of self-defense. That line, steered into the public debate, has been seized by critics who say it stretches familiar concepts of international law and by supporters who argue it anchors the campaign within a collective security rationale. Teasing out the legal argument has consequences beyond academic debate. The administration is seeking some form of congressional cover or additional legal pathway within weeks, and the memo is part of the broader effort to justify continuing operations while still courting diplomatic openings. In public, the legal turn has sharpened the rhetoric. Tehran, speaking through state channels, casts Washington's posture not as prudential restraint, but as a tactical maneuver. Iran's defense ministry said, "Our military power today is a dominant force and the enemy is looking for a face-saving way to escape the war crime it have become trapped in." The words were meant to signal confidence, send resolve even as Tehran engages in indirect diplomacy through intermediaries. That indirect diplomacy is precisely what puts Pakistan at the center of competing pressures. Islamabad's corridors are presented domestically as practical relief for stalled cargo and as an economic opportunity that could create jobs and revenue. The bank guarantee requirement, the encashable deposit tied to import duties, is a bureaucratic attempt to neutralize concerns about sanctions evasion or illicit diversion. It offers an audit trail and a financial check that Pakistan hopes will reassure external partners even as it expands trade connectivity. Yet those guarantees do not erase politics. Washington will watch how they are exercised, whether transit corridors are used strictly for lawful commercial consignments, and whether financial controls are robust enough to prevent sanctioned goods from slipping through. Diplomatically, Pakistan is betting that an economic opening can be a lever for stability. Tie that commerce, if managed transparently, can lower temperatures. That is an optimistic calculation, and one that will be tested in the coming weeks. For traders, the benefits are immediate. Shipping companies can shorten transit times, exporters can diversify routes, and reduce reliance on a single maritime lane. For Pakistan, the corridors provide a strategic pivot toward markets in Iran, Central Asia, and beyond, a chance to convert geography into economic influence. Ports that have been the focus of long-term investment, like Gwadar, now appear to be gaining a broader rationale beyond individual projects. They are access points in a potential overland network that could reroute regional trade maps for years to come. But the structural shift could outlast the current ceasefire. If the land routes become durable corridors, they reshape incentives across the region. Countries once dependent on a particular sea lane will find alternatives. That redistribution of commercial flows carries political consequences. Trade can soften political frictions, but it can also become another vector of contestation in a broader regional rivalry. Each country that ties itself to a new corridor will alter the balance of economic dependency and political alignment. The human dimension is immediate and tangible. Port workers, truck drivers, customs officials, and small traders are implicit actors in this strategic dance. Some will see new opportunity, shorter transit times, steady cargo flows, more predictable work. Others, especially those who have built livelihoods around particular trade patterns, could find themselves sidelined or exposed if politics once again snarls roots. If diplomacy falters, they will be on the front lines of disruption. The interplay between commerce and security is the defining feature of the moment. Pakistan's corridors offer a short-term fix to a supply chain choke point. They also create a longer-term question about who benefits and how rules will be enforced. Will economic ties ease political tensions, Or will trade become another field of competition? Will Washington press Islamabad the relationship for now? The answer remains unclear. Relationship for now, the answer remains unclear. Across capitals, the posture is one of careful hedging. Pakistan says it is facilitating mediation. Iran says it will engage through intermediation. Iran says it will engage through intermediation, legal justification, and public bluster. Each side is testing leverage and measuring resolve. In the swirl of diplomacy, a new customs order in Islamabad is more than a bureaucratic measure. It is a wager that market incentives and mediation will hold, that a country perched between maritime and overland routes can convert geography into diplomatic influence. But whether that wager pays off will depend on choices made in Washington and on how Islamabad manages its new status as both a broker and a trade conduit. It will depend on the discipline of customs officials and banks, on the transparency of guarantees, and on the steadiness of shuffle diplomacy. It will also turn on calculations that are sometimes opaque. Who reads the president's tweets as bluster, and who reads them as policy? Which capitals decide to press for constraints, and which companies choose profit over geopolitical risk? In the short run, the corridors relieve bottlenecks. They return boxes to commerce and give exporters new options. In the longer run, they may reconfigure the economic map of a region long shaped by sea lanes and overland passes. For now, the door to diplomacy remains open but uncertain. Messages continue to be sent, sometimes bluntly, sometimes cryptically, and the region waits to see which direction the next convoy will take, toward commerce, away from confrontation, or into a new kind of standoff where borders and shipping lanes do the talking.